we're back with another video. In today's video, we are racing at the Cranky Monkey mountain bike race, which was about a week ago at Fountainhead Mountain Biking Park in Virginia. So this was my first time racing at Cranky Monkey, but I've been to Fountainhead quite a few times before. So the race I signed up for was the base race, about 9 miles, just one lap of the course. So as you'll see in this race today, we go up this road, then we go over to the black section of the course, onto the blue section of the course, and then finally finish out on the green. So I also had, I think, like a 16-mile race today and a 21-mile race, but I think 9 miles is pretty appropriate for my fitness levels. So as per usual with EX2 Adventure races, who was the organizer for this race, they start in waves. So I think in total, in all classes, there was over 100 people racing, but my category was the male open. They had 19 and under, 40 and under, single speed, different classes like that. So in my class, the male open for the 9-mile race, I think there were probably like 25 people, so definitely a pretty good size race. So always at the beginning of these races, what I've been trying to do lately is take it out pretty slow, so I don't go out too hard, so I can save some energy for later in the race. So the race starts off on that asphalt portion, so that everyone can get spread out, and then we take a right turn onto the single track here. So my understanding is that normally this part of Fountainhead is closed to bikers, and it's only open to horses and I guess hikers. But for the race, they got some special permission so that we could ride this portion of the course. So I've never been on here before, except for the pre-ride, which I had a few weeks ago, but it was interesting to see this part. So a lot of it's, very fast downhill double track, so you can definitely get a lot of speed here and kind of get yourself into trouble. So try to just be conservative, stay behind this guy right here, all the way down to the bottom of the hill, but definitely some fast portions here. I guess I should also mention, I'm riding my trusty Trek X Caliber 8. This is a 2020 model year. So it's an aluminum hardtail, 100 millimeters of suspension in the front, and of course no suspension in the back. I'm running some 2.25-inch Maxxis Aspens. I have a mix of SRAM, SX, and GX. I upgraded my grips, have a dropper post, things like that. So nothing too special. As I said in my previous videos, I definitely hope to upgrade to a full suspension bike soon, because especially with these races that have a lot of routes, such as Fountainhead, your hands and arms just really take a beating from all the vibration. The other thing I should mention is I'm filming this race on my DJI Osmo Action 3, which is an action camera similar to the GoPro, but just from DJI. I'm filming in 4K. One of the wider field of views. But one thing I should mention is that the way I have my camera oriented, it's actually upside down just to get the best angle. But I think because of the DJI mounting system, it's a little bit further away from my body than my old GoPro. So sometimes the camera has a tendency to bounce around some. So I either need to tighten my chest mount a little bit more, or maybe try, flipping the camera right side up so the camera isn't as far away from my body, because on some portions of the race, the camera just bounces a lot, and the stabilization can't really keep up with that much bouncing. So the stabilization is still pretty good on the camera. It's just that, the camera itself bounces sometimes. So you might see that on the video. So this was a really tough climb right here. In the pre-ride, I actually didn't make it up, but today I did. A lot of people I think were challenged by that climb, so I'm pretty happy that I made it up. As you can see, there's just tons and tons of routes. So, with the full suspension bike, even though it may be, slightly heavier than a similar hardtail, just being able to sit down and pedal over roots and rocks is a massive benefit, because you don't have to waste energy standing up, and also your body just takes less of a beating, because the full suspension bike can absorb some of those bumps. So after that, portion, there was another sort of double track portion, which took us down to the beginning of the Black Trail at Fountainhead. So once we got onto the Black Trail, it was game on from there. Just your normal single track riding. So this was actually my second time on the black trail at Fountainhead. I've been here multiple times. I did the green and the blue trails, but it was actually my second time on the black trail. My first time was at the pre-ride for this race. So it's definitely interesting to see, the black trail. On the black trail, if you've never been to Fountainhead before, there are some pretty big jumps and drops, but for the race, they pretty much, closed those off because, they didn't want inexperienced riders going over those big drops. But black trail is definitely pretty nice. There are definitely some smooth sections like this with some whoops, and then there's definitely some rootier sections later on in the course. So you'll see me go around some of the drops here and there. They have those bigger ones that are blocked off, but then they have the smaller ones. And normally during races, I just go around them because if your body gets really tired, you might get lazy and might not hit the drop or the jump correctly. So oftentimes I just go around them. But these sections of the course were pretty fun, where it was smoothed out here, just fast and flowy. But it was also pretty sandy, and I'm not sure if they add sand to these sections of the course, but it was pretty dry. And people were slipping around a lot. So if it had just rained a few days prior, it might be a little bit more grip. But since it was pretty dry, there's definitely a lack of traction on many parts of the course. So here we're probably at 1 or 2 miles into the course, just steady on the black trail on the single track portion, and just making our way to the blue trail. So on some of these cross country mountain bike races, especially the amateur races, it can be difficult to pass people, because as you can see, there's not that much space on the trail to pass people. But there should be a culture of letting the person behind you pass if they're clearly going faster than you. So throughout the race, if someone comes up behind you, they might say, when you have a chance, let me pass on your left or pass on your right. And then when you see an opening, just kind of pull over to the side a little bit and let them pass. So someone had asked me a question about that recently, so that was just kind of top of mind. Another thing that I mentioned in a previous race, well, let me pause for a second. I almost hit a tree right there, but I think I saved myself. But one of the things I mentioned in a previous race is, in my experience, at least the races that I've done, I've noticed that a dropper post is really not necessary for cross-country mountain bike races. I do have one on this bike, it's probably a slightly heavier model from Crank Brothers, but I barely ever used it. I probably used it 2 or 3 times just because I had it, but I noticed that it wasn't really necessary. I could definitely get my hips behind my seat, whenever I was going down something steep. So I'm not sure how many people at the pro level use the dropper post consistently. If it's a light dropper post, you might as well have it, but it's definitely not a necessity. So this was a pretty gnarly section of the course, just a ton of roots on this climb. So I think I snuck by and was able to pedal on without getting off my bike, so that was pretty impressive. But just tons and tons of roots on certain sections of the course. Some are definitely, I guess, maybe newer, or they've been worked on more recently, so they're a little bit more flowy. But there's definitely some very, very rooty section of the course. So definitely looking forward to getting a full suspension mountain bike sometime soon, just to experience that. I've ridden full suspension before, but it'd be nice to go to my usual trails with full suspension and compare the experience to riding on a hardtail. What else can I say? One of the things that is always interesting to me is what equipment or hydration or food people bring to these races. And like I said, this race was about 9 miles, so it took me just over an hour to complete. So some people, they'll bring like an entire backpack, and they might have different tools and food in there. I have always been very, very minimal with the stuff that I bring. So I take, day to day I have a bunch of stuff on my bike, like a pump and lights and stuff. So I take all that stuff off. So on my bike, there's only my Garmin and yeah, that's pretty much it. Only my Garmin. But I do carry in my jersey a multi-tool, a CO2 canister, some tire darts. So if I do get a flat, hopefully I can fix it with that. If it was a longer race and I was in like a more remote location, and then I'll probably bring some extra stuff, maybe an inner tube and things like that. But for these shorter races, I just keep it very minimal, only a few tools. So if those don't work, I'll just have to walk to the car. And in terms of food and hydration, I didn't bring any snacks with me. I just brought one bottle of water, and in that bottle I have Scratch super high carb and also a Noon electrolyte tablet. So Scratch super high carb is basically a carbohydrate drink mix. It's almost like pure carbs just for energy, and then the Noon electrolyte tablet just has electrolytes. So that combination has worked pretty well for me. Since the race is only about an hour, I didn't feel the need to bring lots of snacks or food or anything. But like I said, if it was a longer course, maybe if I did like the 16 or 21 mile course, then I might bring some energy gels or different snacks and such. So we're probably maybe around halfway done with the race so far. So we are exiting the black trail and going into the blue trail. So this part right here is kind of like the crossroads of the blue trail and the black trail. So they had some volunteers where you could, I guess, stop and get some snacks or some water. So now we are on to the blue trail. So once I hit the blue trail, I kind of almost hit like a second wind. Like I got some more energy because the blue trail is way more familiar to me compared to the black trail. So I knew the course better. I knew some of the fast parts. I knew some of where the obstacles were. So I definitely felt myself kind of speeding up a little bit, as we got closer to the finish line and as I got further along on the blue course. So the blue course, or the blue trail at Fountainhead is definitely a pretty nice trail. We're at the race we only kind of did half of the blue, so we didn't do the full loop of the blue, but we did kind of the back half. So there's definitely some fun parts here with just a lot of tight twists and turns, a lot of punchy climbs, a lot of steep downhills. And one of the things that people quickly notice about Fountainhead is that it's a very punchy sort of course. So even though they have a trail that's marked as green, if you're very, very new to mountain biking, I might recommend starting at a different trail, just because Fountainhead is actually pretty challenging. There's lots of routes, there's a few drops here and there, and the up and down climbs can just get very, very tiring. So during some of these climbs in the course, even though my gearing is from I think 11 to 50, even if you're in that biggest or that biggest gear, or I should say the lowest gear, it just felt like you were just moving so slowly. So yes, some of these climbs are definitely very, very steep. So hopefully my next bike will even have a lower low gear, maybe like 51 or 52, because it definitely comes in handy for some of those really steep or long climbs here at Fountainhead. So I think that sign said maybe like mile 7 or something. Flew by pretty quickly, but that means we have about 2 or 3 miles left to the finish line. So on my Garmin, which I believe is the Garmin 520 Edge Plus, something like that, I just have pretty much the time, the miles, and maybe my speed or something. So I pay much attention to the mileage during these races because I know the course is like 9.2 miles. So if I see like I've traveled 7 miles, then I know I have 2 miles left. So that's kind of how I like gauge my energy expenditure, on these races. But of course, since I know the course pretty well from the blue and green trails, I could also just kind of figure out how close I was to the finish line. So I ended up doing pretty well at this course, or at this race. I ended up finishing 6th out of 24 in the male open. I think overall I was like top 25 overall out of like 130 people. So definitely pretty happy with that result. One thing that I've been thinking about is whether or not I'll try and get more competitive or more involved with XC mountain bike racing. Because as it stands now, I don't really train specifically for these races. I kind of just sign up for fun, and whatever fitness I have from riding or swimming or running or lifting weights, just kind of go into the race, with whatever fitness level I have. But if I want to get more competitive, I probably upgrade my bike and just get more volume of riding in. Because honestly, I don't really even get that much volume of riding in. Maybe 1 to 3 rides per week. During the warmer months. So if I want to get more competitive, I just have to get some more riding in. But even still, I think I'm doing pretty well for my experience level. 6th out of 24 in the male open category is pretty good in my opinion. So yeah. So we're nearing the end of the blue course. There's definitely some fast sections here, some fun sections. And I believe there was someone like right behind me this entire way, so he was definitely pushing me, and I was definitely, I could feel him behind me. So I was trying to speed up, even though I wasn't sure, which category he was in. But yeah. And I think right there, I might have had like a pretty big pedal strike. My pedal hit a rock, but I think I saved it, so I didn't fall over. Didn't have any, major wipeouts or anything on this course. During the pre-ride, actually, I did have a pretty minor crash. Maybe I'll post that video at some point. But that portion of the course, they actually closed for the race, which was interesting. Because after I crashed, someone else right behind me crashed. So that was pretty interesting. So maybe I'll post that video. But thankfully they closed that. So now we are exiting the blue trail at Fountainhead and entering the green trail. So because of how the race organizer set everything up, once you get to the green trail here, there's probably like half a mile or a quarter mile left to the finish line. So I definitely knew that we were getting closer. I tried to push the pace a little bit, but a lot of the green course here is just kind of like a climb out of the valley area to the finish line. So just trying to pick up the pace, not make any mistakes. Even though this is just something I'm doing for fun, I definitely am pretty competitive, so I still want to finish strong. Lots of bridges on this course as well. Nothing too narrow, but a lot of fun bridges and things like that. So yeah, what else can I say? Well, this is probably going to be my last race of the year. It's my 3rd mountain biking race of the year. I've been racing now for 3 years, just for fun. In the prior years, I only did 1 race, so this year I did 3 races. So maybe next year I'll do more. We'll see. But yeah, definitely had fun and looking forward to more races soon. Almost had a wipeout there, but I saved it, and we are approaching the finish line. So I guess I'll leave the video running here, and you all can watch the finish. Leave a comment down below, like the video, and I'll catch you all in the next one.